have seen these twins for over 30 years in one body, how they think, how they sleep with men own of them, even got married. Imagine I will tell you the story of Abby and Brittany Hensel about their incredible but very difficult life. And in the end, I will answer the main question, when they will be separated from each other. The birth of Abby and Brittany Hensel on 7/3/1990 in Minnesota became a real sensation, not only for their family, but also for the medical community. Why no one expected the appearance of conjoined twins, since the ultrasound examination did not indicate the possibility of such twins. The parents expected that the child would be. What a surprise! Everything happened chaotically. Doctors panicked, and the parents just prayed. However, having seen the girls, they immediately accepted and loved them, despite their unique physical condition. According to statistics, the survival rate of conjoined twins is extremely low, and out of every 30,000 born this way, only one pair survives. Abby and Brittany had every chance of facing serious medical problems in the first 24 hours of life. However, they not only survived, but continued to grow and develop as healthy children. The twins' parents tried to provide them with as normal a childhood as possible. They attended a regular school where the sisters learned to ignore the inevitable sidelong glances and find friends who accepted them as who they were. The girl's mother, Brittany Hensel, was always against conducting any experiments on them, even if they could provide answers to questions about the girl's future development and health. The anatomy of Abby and Brittany Hensel is amazing and unique. They have 2 heads, 2 arms, 2 legs, 2 spines, but the internal structure, their bodies are much more complex. The sisters have 3 lungs, 2 hearts, 1 liver, 2 stomachs, and 3 kidneys. Their circulatory system and genitals are common, which makes their physiological coordination extremely complex and unique. The complexity of their joint functioning is especially noticeable in how they control their bodies. Each sister controls one side of the body and does not feel touches on the other side. Despite this, Abby and Brittany have learned to synchronize their movements so harmoniously that they can not only walk and perform everyday tasks, but also engage in such activities as playing the piano, swimming, or cycling. Scientists suggest that there are unique neural connections between the sisters that other people do not have. These connections may explain why they are able to read each other's thoughts, write emails, and finish each other's sentences without prior agreement. These features show that their life together has turned them into an incredibly coordinated team that sometimes seems almost supernatural. The intuitive connection between Abby and Brittany is so strong that even physical and emotional needs, one of the sisters, can cause similar reactions in the other. If one of them is thirsty, the other also begins to feel the need for water. If one needs to fix her hair, the other instinctively helps her. Incredibly true. But as you understand, there are some nuances here. Development of Abby and Brittany Hensel, constantly accompanied by medical and physical challenges. One of the serious problems that the girl faced at the age of 12 was Abby's accelerated growth, which began to actively threaten their common health. Due to the fact that Abby's spine began to stretch, there was a threat of a fracture of the common rib cage, which required urgent intervention of doctors to stop her growth and prevent further complications. It was decided to medically suppress it hormonally. However, by that time, she had already managed to grow by 10 centimeters, which forces Brittany constantly to stand on her toes to compensate for the difference in height. Regular visits to the surgeon, neurologist, and pediatrician have become an integral part of the sisters' lives since childhood. Despite careful medical supervision, Abby has already suffered from pneumonia twice, which in each case forced Brittany to spend several weeks in bed next to her sister, demonstrating their inseparable interdependence and support. for each other, friend personality and character differences between Abby and Brittany, also noticeable in everyday life. Abby, being an introvert, prefers quiet evenings at home, tends to be a leader, is afraid of heights. The British, despite their thoughtfulness and quiet nature, love to actively spend time with friends. Differences even concern their tastes. Abby cannot stand milk while Brittany drinks it without problems, but completely refuses meat and fish. Thus life of Abby and Brittany Hensel, a constant learning and adaptation, both for themselves and for their environment. Despite their unique physical and psychological characteristics, they have learned to live in harmony and mutual understanding. Their ability to adapt and find compromises manifests itself in many aspects of their lives. For example, in the design of their room, they managed to combine their favorite colors, purple for Abby and gold for Brittany, which led to the creation of a unique design with purple walls and gold shelves. Clothing is also an area where the twins have to make concessions. Finding clothes that would satisfy the taste of both and be comfortable is difficult, so they often resort to individual adjustments of purchased items. However, not all aspects of their lives are also easy to regulate. For example, the sisters face unwanted public attention. They feel uncomfortable being photographed without permission or being stared at. Abby and Brittany are open to communication and willing to answer questions, but often face misunderstanding from others, which forces them to seek shelter behind the backs of friends in everyday life. The sisters face practical problems, such as buying and altering clothes to adapt them to their unique physical features. They make an additional slit for the second head, which allows them to comfortably wear the same outfits. Issues of coordination of movements also play a significant role in their lives. Interesting fact, due to height differences, Brittany often has to walk on tiptoes or in high heels to maintain balance, and the same height as Abby since early childhood. The sisters have learned to find compromise in controversial situations. Although in childhood they, like many children, had moments when they resolved conflicts more aggressively, sometimes even hitting each other, or rather their only body. But with age, they began to use less conflicting methods, such as flipping a coin to decide how to spend an evening during their school years. The twins were faced with the need to prove their individuality. They took exams separately to emphasize the differences in their academic abilities. Abby showed talent in mathematics, while Brittany is inclined to the humanities. Getting a driver's license was also a test, since it required them to coordinate their actions. Abby controlled the pedals and gearbox, and Brittany turned signals and headlights. They had to pass the exam repeat several times to confirm their ability to drive safely, although I think it's fair after all. When driving, they are responsible for the lives of other people, and what happened to them during their student years. Transition to university became another important stage in the life of Abby and Brittany Hensel, which they brilliantly overcame, confirming their ability to lead a normal, active life despite the unique physical conditions. Initially, Abby and Brittany dreamed of different careers, wanted to become a pilot, the other a dentist. However, they realized that due to their unique situation, they would have to find a compromise solution. This choice led them to college at Battle University, where they were able to receive an education adapted to their physical needs. After graduating from college, the sisters began working as part-time teachers, and since 2017, they have switched to full-time. They were faced with the need to share one salary between the two of them, which is not only a financial but also a moral test. Nevertheless, their example has become an inspiration to students and parents who highly appreciate their ability to cope with challenges and pass on knowledge and experience to the younger generation. The professional and personal aspirations of the Hensel sisters have always been filled with the desire to lead a full life. They have spoken about the dream of having a large 7, which emphasizes their optimism and love of life. Doctors confirm that they can technically have children, but this raises ethical and medical questions, given their common body and reproductive systems. In 2002, when they began appearing in the media, public interest in them, life became too high. But a few years ago, and Britain made the decision to leave the public eye, limiting their presence on social networks and ceasing cooperation with journalists. This decision could have been partly motivated by rumors of Britain's engagement, which quickly spread across the internet, adding pressure on the personal space and privacy of the sisters Abigail Hensel, of the famous Siamese twins from the USA, married nurse Josh. Bowling approximately, this is how all the American newspapers described this event, trying to get photo, and the girls were ready for such a development of events. Everything became known to the general public only 3 years after the secret ceremony, which added romance and intrigue to the lives of the sisters who have long been under the public eye. Abby and Brittany, who have done everything together since birth, including working as teachers in high school, appearing on television, and participating in sports events, chose a single dress for their wedding outfit. Photos of the two of them from the ceremony, where both sisters in a single dress hug Josh, flew around the world and caused a wave of admiration and surprise. Where the couple met, meeting with Abby's future husband, took place in a city hospital in Minnesota, where Josh worked as a nurse. He admits that the most important thing for him is his feelings for Abby, and he is happy with her. Despite the unusual circumstances of their marriage, Josh's personal life also came under the media's attention after his ex-wife filed a lawsuit against him to establish paternity of the child born immediately after their divorce. These events added even more discussions around the already unusual family history of bowling. It turns out that the twins took the man away from the family, by the way. Medical experts confirm that Abby and Brittany have the ability to conceive and give birth to a child, although this will be the first known case for Siamese twins with similar anatomy. Nevertheless, all medical and ethical aspects of such a decision are carefully considered in everyday life. The family pays great attention to spending time together, including cooking, sports, and active weekends. But want some spicy details? The intimate life of Siamese twins Abby and Brittany Hensel is shrouded in many speculations, and often becomes the subject of discussion due to the uniqueness of their situation. They share many physical organs, including organs below the waist, which makes them sensitive to touch and emotional each other's experiences on a completely different level, not available to normal twins or other people. Professor of Clinical Medicine and Bioethics Alice Dreger emphasizes that despite their physical integration, Abby and Brittany have separate emotional experiences and needs, including romantic relationships. The question of how the sisters cope with their differences in their personal lives, especially when one of them is in a romantic relationship and the other is not, remains delicate, raising important questions about privacy and mutual respect. Professor Dreger's research and comments also indicate that the need for romantic relationships in conjoined twins may be less due to the constant presence of soulmate. This unique position allows the sisters to experience a level of closeness and understanding that is not available to most people, and what the girls themselves say, as Abigail Hensel put it. At moments, when her personal space becomes part of someone else's experience, Brittany takes steps to ensure sister maximum privacy, using a blindfold and music in headphones. This not only demonstrates respect for each other's privacy, but also emphasizes their ability to adapt to very difficult circumstances. Although she still feels all her husband's touches, sisters, including below the waist, strange situation. Really, but if everything is so complicated, then it was impossible to somehow separate the girls. And yes, Such proposals have been made. Siamese twins have been trying to separate for centuries, especially if there is a chance to give each child independence. However, in the case of Abby and Brittany, this turned out to be impossible due to the peculiarities of their anatomy. The main problem is that although they have two separate spines, their internal organs are interconnected, and any surgical intervention could lead to fatal consequences for both sisters. Scientists and surgeons repeatedly discussed the possibility of separating them, but each time came to the conclusion that the risk was too great. They studied how their body functions. The sisters have two hearts, but one common system, circulatory system, and many common organs such as the liver, bladder, and reproductive system. In addition, control over movements in their body is divided so that each sister controls one half of the body. This would make their life after separation almost impossible, even if the operation was successful. Since doctors gave up trying to separate, the sisters have learned to live cooperating with each other and synchronizing their actions. Scientists note that their brains work in complete harmony, allowing them to coordinate movements without unnecessary words. Attempts to find a way to separate Siamese twins continue, but each case is so unique that it is almost impossible to predict the outcome. In the situation of Abby and Brittany, it was decided to leave everything as is. After all, their connection is not only physical, but also deeply emotional, and any break could disrupt this unusual harmony. And the girls have already arranged their lives. So why should they risk it, and what do you think? Is it worth the risk in the case of sisters? Definitely write in the comments and subscribe to the channel.